Shadigopanji to come and felicitate Dushyanth Sridhar ji with Seshavastram. I request Sai Garu and Ramesh ji.
Thank you so much. Awesome. Namaskar. Thank you.
And I don't think I have to give any introduction about Dushyanth Sridhar ji. And if anybody is there, those who don't know about him, definitely you will know more than me or more than anybody here within these 7 days. What is Dushyanth Sridhar ji? And he wants to start the program by sharp 6:30. And before that, a few announcements, few requests. And first request is, in the second Bhagavata Saptaham, 230 years after beginning of Kali Yuga, when Gokarna did Bhagavata Saptaham for his brother who became Pishacha Dundukara, at the end of the Saptaha, only one Vimana came from Vaikuntha, and Gokarna asked those Vishnu Sevakas, Atrayava Bhavasanta Shrotaraha Mama Nirmalaha. Swami, there are lot of devotees here, those who listen Bhagavatam for last 7 days. Anitani Vimanani Natesham Yugapat Kutaha. But only the one Vimana came from Vaikuntha, and that too only single-seated Vimana for my brother Dundukara. And how come you did not bring Vimanams for everybody? And they gave a reply, and Dushyanth anyway will give that reply, and please listen that reply, and because that is very important, why you should attend all these 7 days and what you have to do these 7 days. How can we get the Vimanam reserved from Vaikuntha? But I feel definitely a flight will be reserved for everybody if you keep your mobiles in flight mode. So please keep your mobiles in flight mode, silent mode. And I request devotees not to move during the discourse. And Swami, you can stay.
Srimadvenkatanathāryam Vande Vedantadeshikam Lakshmīnatha Samarambham Natha Yamuna Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Yo Nityam Achyuta Padambuja Yugmarukma Vyamohata Staditarani Trinayamene Asmadguror Bhagavatosya Dayeka Sindhoho Ramanujasya Charanau Sharanam Prapadye Mata Pita Yuvatayastanaya Vibhutis Sarvam Yadeva Niyamena Madanvayanam Adyasya Nahkulapater Vakulabhiramam Srimat Tadangri Yugalam Pranamami Murdhna Bhutam Sarascha Mahadahvaya Bhattanata Shri Bhaktisara Kulashekara Yogi Vahan Bhaktangri Renu Parakala Yatindra Mishran Srimat Parankushamunim Pranatosmi Nityam Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Vyasam Vasishtha Naptaram Shaktef Pautram Akalmasham Parasharatmajam Vande Shukatatam Taponidhim Vyasaya Vishnurupaya Vyasarupaya Vishnave Namo Vai Brahmanidhaye Vasishtaya Namo Namaha Achaturvadanor Brahma Dvibahur Aparoharihi Aphala Lochana Shambhu Bhagavan Badarayanaha Yogo Shatam Kanakashringamayam Dadati Vipraya Veda Vidushecha Bahushrutaya Punyamscha Bharatakatham Shrunuyamscha Nityam Tulyam Bhavati Tasyacha Tasyachaiva Parasharya Vachasudham Sumanasaha Dugdhabdhi Madhyodritam Samsaragni Vidipana Vyapagata Pranatma Sanjeevanim Purvacharya Surakshitam Bahumatim Vyaghata Durasthitam Anitam Tu Nijaksharaihi Sumanasaha Bhaumah Pibantvan Vaham Nigamakalpataror Galitam Phalam Shukamuka Tamritadrava Sanyutam Pibata Bhagavata Rasamalayam Muhuraho Rasikaha Bhuvi Bhavukaha Sandranandavabodhatmakamanupamitam कालदेशावदिभ्यां निर्मुक्तं नित्यमुक्तं निगमशतसहस्रेण निर्भास्यमानम् अस्पष्टं दृष्टमात्रे पुनः उरुपुरुषार्थात्मकं ब्रह्मतत्त्वं तत्तावत् भाति साक्षात् गुरुपवनपुरे हन्तभाग्यं जनानाम् अग्रे पश्यामि तेजो निबिडतरकला यावळी लोभनीयं पीयूषप्लावितोऽहं तदनु तदुतरे दिव्यकैशोरवेशं तारुण्यारम्भरम्यं परमसुखरसास्वाद रोमाञ्चिताङ्गैः आवीतं नारदाद्यैः विलसदुपनिषत्सुन्दरीमण्डलैश्च बाहुद्वन्द्वेन रत्नोज्ज्वलवलयभृता शोणपाणिप्रवाळेनोपाता वेणुनाळीं प्रसृतनखमयूकाङ्गुलीं सङ्गशारां हृत्वा वक्त्रारविन्दे सुमधुरविकसद्रागम् उद्भाव्यमानैः शब्दब्रह्मामृतैः त्वं शिशिरितभुवनैः सिञ्च मे कर्णवीथीम् योगीन्द्राणां त्वदङ्गेष्वधिकसुमधुरं मुक्तिभाजां निवासो भक्तानां कामवर्षद्युतरुकिसलयं नाथ ते पादमूलं नित्यं चित्तस्थितं मे पवनपुरपते कृष्णा कारुण्यसिन्धो कृष्णा कारुण्यसिन्धो कृत्वा निशेषतापान् प्रतिशतु परमानन्दसन्दोहलक्ष्मी अज्ञात्वा ते महत्त्वं यदिह निगदितं विश्वनाथ क्षमेतः स्तोत्रं चैतत्सहस्रोत्तरमधिकतरं त्वत्प्रसादाय भूयात् द्वेधा नारायणीयं श्रुतिषु च जनुषस्तुत्यता वर्णनेन स्फीतं लीलावतारैरिदमिद कुरुताम् आयुरारोग्यसौख्यं जानकीकान्तस्मरणम् जानकीकान्तस्मरणम् गोपिका जीवनस्मरणम्. With the abundant blessings, incessant in nature, of Paramatma, of the Alvars and Acharyas, after a series of 4 days where I had the bhagyam to speak in the same holy premises of our Shweta Sri Venkateshwara Swami temple, in the month of July 2016, I'm back in 2023 with an extended set of 3 days, making it a Saptaham of one of the most revered, well-acclaimed, well-reached and well-known Puranas called as Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana. Of course, Srimad Bhagavata Saptaham is a beautiful jamboree of the Parayanam and the Pravachanam. I'm sure Parayanam will happen in different points in time at different junctures. Beginning today till about the Friday, which is the 5th of May, which also includes the Nrisimha Jayanti in the series. I will be speaking on Srimad Bhagavatam for a set of 7 days, same timing, 6:30 to 8:30, may extend to about 8:45 because we have Shayanotsavam around 9. So I'm sure since the lectures are in English, they have been made in English and Angla Bhasha for people of different Bharatiya languages to consume, internalize and experience. Otherwise, my Matribhasha is Dramida Bhasha, which is Tamil. Nevertheless, I have chosen the language that we have bequeathed from Trimathacharyas, Rennacharya, Martinacharya and Victoria Maharani. So, if there are people who speak the Tamil language, bring Tamil devotees. Telugu matladtara ikkada? Telugu varu unnara? Astikalu kavali. Chappandi. Ikkada saptaham avutundi ee sthalamlo unta. Kannada avaru idara illi? Kannada astika jana. Helbidi. Hindi mein baat karne astik log idhar hai? Hindi? Okay. So please inform devotees of your own communities to attend. Bhagavata Saptaham is for all. We should just not be good in passing resolutions. We should say this is inclusive. Bhagavata Saptaham is for all. So, in this set of 7 days, of course, we have a paddhati of following a certain pattern. There is a Mahatmyam at the commencement, and then we go skandam after skandam. On day 3, Nrisimhavataram has to come. That's the paddhati. On day 4, Krishna has to be born. Day 7, we have Rukmani Parinayam. So that's the general paddhati that we follow. With that skeleton in mind, I may go plus or minus buffer with certain topics. So the first place where we need to begin, I'm going to talk about 2 things. One, we should experience the architecture of one of the temples celebrated by the last of the Alvars called Thirumangai Alvar. He was called Parakala. So Thirumangai Alvar has sung on one of the Divya Deshams in Kanchipuram. It currently falls under the maintenance of the Archaeological Survey of India. It is called Vaikuntha Perumal Temple. Alvar calls it Paramechura Vinnagaram, Parameshwara Vinnagaram, Paramechura Vinnagaram Aduve, he sings. This temple is extremely important for Bhagavatam. This temple, built around the 7th, 8th century by the Pallava king, has been invoked with the king's name by the Alvar. And this is one of the temples which was one of the inspirations and the precursors to the world's largest non-functioning temple called Angkor Wat in Kambuja Desham. This is Ashtanga Vimana temple facing the west. Those of you who are seated can come in the front. Some of you, Nadul, if you find it boring, you can leave, so do not feel obliged at all. I'll try my level best to not make it boring, but feel free. This is a democratic country as much as India is. So, feel free. So, if you go to this temple, so when you visit Bharata Desham, alongside visiting the trio called Habibullah, Bazullah and Usman, so make it a point to also visit 2-3 places of architectural importance. If you go to this temple and do a pradakshinam, you will find the wall of the 7th century talking about the dynasty, complete dynasty. So this is one of the very few temples that gives a depiction of the entire dynasty, Pallava dynasty. You will find a panel where there is a jar, a measuring vessel, and next to the measuring vessel is a little baby. This iconography conveys something. This measuring vessel is dronam. Measuring vessel is called dronam. The child next to it indicates the child's birth because of the dronam. So he was called Drona. Dronacharya was the son of Bharadwaja Maharshi. And in the next panel, you will find another child with a horse face close by, which says the child's cry was akin to the neighing of a horse. So he was called Ashwathama. Ashwathama's descendants were the Pallavas. So Ashwathama holds immense importance for Bhagavatam because it begins with Ashwathama. Here there is a verse. Sasamhitam bhagavatim kritva nukramya chatmajam shukamadhyapayamasa nivritti niratam munihi Shukadeva. We need to learn the art of understanding, deciphering our scriptures. A lot of it is meant as a case study and homework for us. To not construe the verses as is in many occasions. If it is said Shuka Brahmam, Shuka in Sanskrita means parrot. Mamava Shiva Panjara Shuki Pankaja Mukhi Guru Guharanjani Durita Bhanjani Niranjani Kanjadala Yatakshi Kamakshi Kamala. Shuka is parrot. Interestingly, we use the word parroting, which means to say repeating. But of course, in iconography, we take Shuka Brahmam with the face of a parrot. But here Shuka means he spoke what was taught to him by his father. His father was Vyasa. So Vyasa taught, and this is what the shlokam says, Samhitam Bhagavatim Kritva. So Shuka spoke, and it was largely compiled by Vyasa. Where do we begin? See, somewhere we have to begin. The Charitram. There is a saying in the Tamil language, Adiyattoduda Bharada Bhatta, which means you won't know where to begin Bharatam. It is a set of 1,25,000 verses inclusive of Harivamsham, Sapadalaksha Granth. Somewhere I have to begin. So let me begin at one occasion. Where is this occasion? Prior to the Mahabharata Yuddham, we had people preparing for the Yuddham. It's called Udyoga Parva. We have Adi Parva, Sabha Parva, Vana Parva, Virata Parva. I will tell all of these. You have to carry a paper and a note. This is not Alex Babu's comedy. Right? Ranjani, apde pudicha shadjate, rishadata tuki kudutta, all that is nice. But in Upanyasam, you have to carry notes. Unless and until we are all Kuresha, Kuratadvan, who can listen and remember. If we are confident that we can remember, we can do. Otherwise, we have to take notes. Taking down notes is the essence of sanātana dharma. Had our acharyas not taken notes, we wouldn't have had a gamut of literature that we celebrate and revere today. Please make sure you take notes, take photo of it, send it to your children. They will surely read it. They will value your efforts. Now we have Adi Parva, Sabha Parva, Vana Parva, Virata Parva, Udyoga Parva, and then we have Bhishma Parva. In Adi Parva, there is an instance. Dronacharya had a lot of vairi, enmity with Drupada Maharaja. It was an incident because of which he got angry. So he said, I will ensure my students avenge this humiliation meted to me. Thereby, while he passes a place where the sons of Kuruvamsha were playing, with his skills he seems to attract the princess. So they go and mention to Bhishmacharya, we have found the right teacher. So the students spotted the teacher. Bhishmacharya says, I'll talk to Drona, and they recruited Drona. So the conditions in that Dronacharya's work agreement was, he will be teaching only the sons of Kuruvamsha, sons of Dhritarashtra and Pandu, nobody else. Dronacharya agreed. But he said there is an exception. There is always an exception to a general rule. He said, my son Ashwathama will train with them. My son is not from Kuruvamsha, but you have to give this advantage to me, nepotism. That's the debate, right? So he said, let Ashwathama also train. Vyasacharya so beautifully talks about how partiality works. When Dronacharya used to ask the sons of Dhritarashtra and Pandu to fetch water, he used to send one ghatam. Those ghatams used to be like Mannar Gudi Shambhu. You know Mannar Gudi Shambhu? You know? So Mannar Gudi Shambhu, it will be very narrow. So you can't easily clean it. From the outside it will look very, very shining and with the sheen that's required for a vessel. So this was given, so it was very narrow. So it will take a lot of time for the water to displace the air within and then fill itself. So he used to give all his students that pot with a long, narrow mouth. But he used to give a broad one, mouthed one, to his son alone. So if he would ask them to fetch the waters, if they would take 10 minutes to come back, the son used to take 3 minutes. And in that gap of 7 minutes, he used to teach extra portions to the son. This is there, you can check, you can fact check me from Mahabharata. One more request, please don't mind me saying this. Treat me as your friend. Some of you who are seated there, please come and sit here. Even if you want to leave in the middle, it's okay. Please come. Because, I'm telling you, because many devotees will come, then in the middle there'll be disturbance. That's why. Others will find it. I have no problem. I'll close my eyes and speak also. Please come. And if in the middle, if you find it boring, please feel free to leave. That will give me a warning to speak back. I used to do this. So the other boys of Dhritarashtra and Pandu, remember the word Kauravas doesn't mention only of Duryodhana. The sons of Pandu were also Kauravas. They were Kuruvamshas. Sons of Pandu were Pandavas. Sons of Dhritarashtra were Dhartarashtras. So they all came. Now Ashwathama used to come at the 3rd minute running. But to his surprise, Dronacharya found Arjuna also coming at the same time. Action king. So both of them used to come in the 3rd minute. Then he asked Arjuna, how did you come in the 3rd minute? He said, I studied in Google Varuna Mantram, and using Varuna Mantram I fetched the waters not from the lake. That's why I could come. So that is when he thought, even with partiality, if it's true talent, that student can come up. So he was very much attached to Arjuna. This is where Ashwathama and Arjuna's relationship began. Later, you know what happened with Drupada Maharaja, because Drupada was caught by Arjuna, but Arjuna said, I won't kill you, you are my teacher's friend. And he dragged him to the presence of Dronacharya, and Dronacharya said, now all your territory is mine, half of it you shall rule, with the capital being Kampilyam. And Drupada started ruling, but he felt, I have to avenge this humiliation meted to me. He goes to Yaja and Upayaja, 2 rishis. One rishi refuses to perform the yagam, the other one says, I will perform Putrakameshti. So while doing Putrakameshti, the mantram was, whatever the king desires should happen. So something very logically not so tenable happened, wherein the boy, a fully mature boy, is said to have emerged from the fires. His name was Drishtadhyumna. Drishtadhyumna, fully matured boy. See, that way it was an advantage for the father. You don't have to look for magnet schools. All these problems were not there. Fully mature boy had come. So as the boy came, he knew this is the boy who's going to avenge the humiliation meted to me. This is the boy who's going to vanquish Dronacharya in a battle. As they were about to leave, another lady emerged from the fires. Kumari chapi panchali vedi madhya samuttita shubhaga darshaniyangi vedi madhya manorama shyama padmapala shakshi neelakunjita murdhaja. Beautiful lady emerged. Now, why did she come? Because the mantra said whatever he desires. While Arjuna won over Drona, Drona desired, if at all I have a son-in-law, it should be Arjuna. So to have a son-in-law, you should have the girl. So the girl emerged. So then they were eventually married, and lot of things happened in the Vanaparva, Virata Parva, and finally the only solution was a Yuddham. For that Yuddham, Krishna very well knew. Krishna is Lord Krishna. Krishna is Draupadi. You have to be very careful. See, we have distinct pronunciations in the south of India and north of India. In the south of India, there is an extra akaram which is given to a word. Krishna will become Krishna. Govinda, Narayana. That akaranta shabdam becomes Trilingam. Govinda, Padmanabha is Trilingam. We have a problem there. So we should not extend that akaram. Govinda, Damodara, Padmanabha. Janaki Kanta Smaranam Jai Jai Rama Rama. Sound should. Rama Rama. Wrong. In Sanskritam it's wrong. God will take whatever we say, as long as we say he's happy. That's okay. But language won't accept. In the north of India, that last hrasvam will be taken. Ram. Govind. Pura to batao. Shantakar, Bhujuk, Shain, Padmanabh, Suresh, Vishadhar, who will complete that hymn? Because it is Dvitiya Vibhakti. Shantakaram, I venerate the one who is an embodiment of Shanta, Shantakaram, Bhujagashayanam. So that, see, we say, Yogi Hridyanagamyam, Vande Vishnum, Bhavabhayaharam, Sarvalokaikanatham. So it's Aham. I venerate. So the object has to come in the Dvitiya Vibhakti. So that hymn has to come. Padmanabh, Suresh, Vishwadhar, Gagan, Sadrish, we are not taking attendance. Right? So we have our own distinct pronunciations. Now, Krishna, he knows very well that Ashwathama knew certain extra lessons even which Arjuna did not know. So he did not want Ashwathama to be given prime importance in the Yuddham. It's all strategy. What Krishna does is, in Udyoga Parva, one day he goes to Hastinapuram, and towards the end he says, Ashwathama, are you available? Ashwathama says, yes, Krishna, let's do Sandhya Vandhanam together. He knew very well, while he was conversing with Ashwathama, Duryodhana and Shakuni were looking at them. Poor Ashwathama did not know. Krishna said, he was saying it from a distance. See, if it's dumb charades from a distance, you won't know what is actually happening. So Ashwathama lets go. Now Krishna slowly let his ring slip. Ashwathama caught it. Now the moment Ashwathama caught and gave it to Krishna again, it was a simple conversation. Something slipped. This man gave it to him. But from a distance, Shakuni said there is something brewing there. This man could be the big mole in our side. Don't give him prime importance. So Krishna had the strategy of eliminating Ashwathama's prime presence in the war. So Ashwathama, despite being Dronacharya's son, was never made the commander-in-chief. Bhishmacharya was. After the fall of Bhishmacharya, Dronacharya became. After Dronacharya's chance, Karna became. After Karna, he was always the prince in the waiting. Yuvraj. So he was waiting. Then Karna's Sarathi, who incidentally was the uncle to Nakula and Sahadeva, called as Shalya, became the commander-in-chief. Now the entire Yuddham was close because Duryodhana was hit badly on his thigh and his spine broke as a result. So he was lying close to, in a very bad shape by the banks of a lake. That is when only 3 people were left on the Kauravas side. Kripa, Ashwathama and Kritavarma. Only 3 people. There was no Sainyam also. That is when Ashwathama thought, at least now I should become the commander-in-chief. So wanted to be. Yatha mridhe kauravasrujyayanam vireshvatho viragatim gateshu vrukodarad viddha gadabhimarshad bhagnorudande dhritarashtraputre bhagna urudande, uru is thigh. Bhagna urudande, his spine also broke. Dhritarashtraputre bhartu priyam drauniriti sma pashyan krishna sutanam swapatam shiramsi upaharad vipriyameva tasya jugupsitam karma vigarhayanti. But to please Duryodhana, Ashwathama went closer. And he said, please make the commander-in-chief, me as the commander-in-chief, at least now. So Duryodhana said, I make you the commander-in-chief. But Pandava's side had closely been victorious. There was, if Duryodhana dies, what is the use of victory? That is when Ashwathama, what I'm saying is a combination of Bhagavatam and Mahabharatam, because only if I bring Mahabharatam, there will be some sense here. But there's Bhagavatam. These verses are from Bhagavatam. Ashwathama goes and sits under the shade of a tree. It was around evening time and the sun had set. He noticed a lot of crows sitting on the branches of the tree. At that point in time, an owl comes and fights the crows and consumes them, the flesh of crows. He got an idea, because owl is nocturnal. It can see well in the night. So he got the idea, why should I attack the Pandavas during the day? Let me attack them while they are asleep. So as he goes by the tents of the Pandavas, the soldiers tell the 5 are sleeping peacefully. He goes and shoots arrows at them. The next morning he sees Times of Hastinapura newspaper. The 5 Pandavas were not dead. The sons of the 5 Pandavas born to Draupadi were killed. Draupadi had lost. Mata shishunam nidhanam sutanam nishamya ghoram paritapyamana. See, Mahabharata's Draupadi and Bhagavatam's Draupadi, there is a difference. Mahabharata's Draupadi is very ferocious. You remember in the Sabha she said, to those people who humiliated me, I shall ensure the death of them. I shall drench my hair in the oozing blood from the chest and the thigh of Dushasana and tie it into a veni. There's a beautiful natakam called Veni Samharam. Can you tell me who's the author? Any guess? Veni Samharam. Kalidasa. Veni Samharam. Veni Samharam means tying your hair. It is called, he was great dramatist, called Bhattanarayana. From now on, make it a point. Every 6 months, with whatever little time you have to complete one classical literature book. You have to study. 6, you have to make it a point. Who have they written for? Kalidasa, Bharavi, Magha, Sri Harsha, for us. And we have immense avenues to read. We have Sanskrit commentaries, we have English translations, all available for free these days. Read Meghadutam, read Kumara Sambhavam, beautiful works they are. You will know how literature has grown, flourished and thrived in Bharata Desham. Just not Sanskritam, Tamil as well, Telugu. You can read Amukta Malyada, Potanna Bhagavatam if you are in Telugu, Salappadigaram, so many in Tamil. Now, so that is ferocious Draupadi. Whereas Bhagavatam Draupadi is very calm. See, while she was humiliated, she said, I need that blood and all of it. Now she has lost her 5 sons. Imagine after the Yuddham, she has lost her 5 sons. What does victory mean then? Mata shishunam nidhanam sutanam nishamya ghoram paritapyamana tatarudadvashpa kalakulakshi tam santvayannahya kiritamali. This is a name for Arjuna. He was called Kiriti, Sabyasachi. He was very adept. He was ambidextrous in fighting. Sabyasachi means he can fight through both hands. That's why in Eastern India, Vakaram is replaced by Bakaram. Sabyasachi, he stitches. Sabyasachi, Vijaya, these are all the names. You know, in Virata Parva, towards the end, when Uttara Kumara comes, he is driven by Brihannala. Arjuna in the state of being a yonak. Then finally Arjuna says, when that 13th year is over, he regains his original form and states, I am Arjuna. But Uttarakumara doesn't believe. He says, tell me the 10 names of Arjuna, then I will allow you. He says all these 10 names. It's a beautiful shlokam in Virata Parva. Here, Arjuna says, Draupadi, I can't see you in this state as a mother who has lost all her 5 children. I shall avenge this insult and distress which is meted to you. He goes, Tada shuchaste pramrujami bhadre yad brahma bandho shira atatayinaha gandiva muktair vishikhairupa tvakramya yatsnasi dagdha putra. Stay like this. Before their bodies are cremated, I will bring that person with my gandivam. They somehow came to a conclusion, Ashwathama only must have done. How? See, many of you must have answered those competitive exams in Bharatadesham. There will be some here. One, you calculate what is given in the question and choose the answer. The other one is called answer by rejection method. This cannot be the answer. This cannot be the answer. This cannot be the answer. So this should be the answer. For many questions, it is called the KISS principle way I used to study. Keep it short and sweet. Simple. So we have to cancel and then do it. Similarly, there are only 3 people left on the Kauravas side. Kritavarma wouldn't have the valor to do it. Kripacharya was actually a very nice person. He had studied Shastram. The only person who could have done it was Ashwathama. So Arjuna said, I will go behind Ashwathama, and took his Gandivam. Yad Brahma Bandhoho. Brahma Bandhoho means Brahmana Bandhu. Brahmana Bandhu means? Bandhu ante emi? Bandhu ante? Friendu. Brahmana ante Brahmanudu. Brahmana Bandhu ante friend of... Huh?
One who doesn't do the things which is for the Brahmins.
So, the beauty is, in Sanskritam, when 2 words come together, they necessarily don't have to be a concoction of the meanings. Brahmana is Brahmana, Bandhu is friend. Brahmana Bandhu means enemy of Brahmanas. So this is a very sarcastic way of saying. See, I'll just give you a very... I'll use most of the languages. One, now I'll give a Tamil example. Ivadanna, rumba nallavar sonnene ottar. Inda nallavar dhaan ivar. So that nallavar means good, which doesn't mean there. Nallavar. So the way you say it, நான் சொல்லிட்டு இருந்தேன் ஒருத்தர் பற்றி அவர் தான் இவர் முடிப்பார். ஸோ இதி பிரியாம் வல்கு விசித்திர ஜல்பைஹி சாந்த்வ இத்வாச்சுத மித்ரசூதः அன்வாத்ர வம்சித உக்ரதன்வ கபித்வஜோ குருபுத்திரம் ரதேன. Arjuna started chasing Guruputra, Ashwathama. Who was Arjuna? Kapidhvajaha. He had Hanuman in his emblem. Tamapatantam savilakshya durat kumarahod vigmanarathena paradravat prana paripsuvaryam yavadgamam rudrabhayad yatha kaha. Like how there are 2 ways here in Srimad Bhagavatam. Yatha kaha is one version. There is another version, Yatha arkaha. Arkaha is Surya. So like how Surya ran from Rudra, or like how Brahma ran from Rudra. Sridhariya Vyakhyanam gives details about it. All that, because of the shortage of time, already 36 minutes is over. Now I have to complete 2 skandhas today. That is when they caught Ashwathama and brought him in the presence of Draupadi. He said, you give a judgment. You are the Solomon Papaya, no, do something. Vethedam drona putrasya brahmamastram pradarshitam naivaso veda samharam pranabadha upasthite. Draupadi, that time she said, I won't do anything to him because he is a Guruputra. She said it is not right to attack Guruputra. This Guruputra did one mistake. What he did was, he aimed an astram called Brahmashiras. Brahmashiras, it is super Brahmastram. Brahmastram is surf. Brahmashiras is surf excel. So he shot that astram. But the moment he shot that astram, Krishna says, Arjuna, you shoot Brahmastram. Arjuna says, why should I do that? Because I know one thing that you do not know. Ashwathama doesn't know how to retract the weapon. You do it. So they did that very close to Vyasacharya's hermitage. Vyasacharya then came out and said, both of you should not be causing so much of destruction to the flora and the fauna around you. Take back your astrams. Ashwathama doesn't know how to take back. Arjuna does that well, and he takes back the astrams. That is when Ashwathama, after this, he thinks, this is another insult. He was made the commander-in-chief finally. No successful thing, right? He's being caught. So he releases an astram called Apandaveyastram. Draunasya viplushtamidam madangam santana bijam kuru pandavanam jugopa kukshim gatimata chakraha matuschame yasharanam gatayaha. So he releases an Apandavastram. That Apandavastram's input statement was like the scanf. The input statement was, you have to go and kill the fetus in Uttara's garbham. So the sons are not there. Abhimanyu was dead. Hidimba's son Ghatotkacha was dead. So the only person who could be the torch bearer of this particular dynasty was growing as a fetus within Uttara's garbham. So the moment they understand that this astram was to be released, they try stopping Ashwathama, but he does something very, very disgusting, to kill a fetus. So much so that after releasing this astram, he goes to the presence of Duryodhana. Duryodhana says, I don't approve of it. Duryodhana says, look at that. Huh? I don't approve of what you have done, Ashwathama. This is not right. But that astram goes. Moment that astram is released, Uttara starts feeling the pain in her womb. She has lost her husband. She's in a very distressed state. Just a few days from her husband's death, she senses even the child may die. That is when the Matas go. Kunti, they all, Uttara goes and tells her mother-in-law Subhadra. Subhadra goes and tells her Sakalatri, who's Draupadi. Both of them go and tell their mother-in-law Kunti. So many brothers-in-law were living at one point in time. See, I don't know how many of you remember the Woodward's gripe water advertisement. The baby cries, Nee alumboda na idhaan kuduthen. So all of them were living, overlived people. Now, as they all go and complain, Kunti does Sharanagati to the Lord. Krishna Krishna Mahabaho Paramatma Sanātanaha Anadimadhya Nidhanaha. Please come and protect. Krishna was their solution, go-to solution for everything. Krishna says, I will protect, don't worry. That is when Angushtamatra Purushaha, taking a very, very minuscule size, Krishna goes within the amniotic sac of Uttara and goes around that child. Now, for the first time, the child thought, this is the only place where there is no encroachment. Who has encroached this area? The child starts looking around. Ikshate, to see. Pari, to look around. Pari ikshate, hence this boy was called Parikshit. So this child looks around. Who is this? That is when, he keeps looking around, the Lord goes, protects, and then the child is born. But here, Bhagavatam says the child was born. Mahabharatam goes one step ahead and says, even after the child was born, the child was not responsive. It didn't respond. It behaved like a log of wood. There was no reaction at all. That is when there is an Ashariri Vakya, an ethereal voice that says a person who has adhered to celibacy, brahmacharyam, not essentially being a brahmachari, to celibacy, and was spoken only the truth. If he or she touches, this child shall gain life. Rishis escaped. Now if they touch and it doesn't come back, it will become a big problem. They all escaped. The only person left in the huge rigmarole was Krishna. Both these conditions superficially won't fit him. Brahmacharyam. And second, must have spoken the truth. Malai piranda nambiyai, male seyyum manalanai, yela poigal uraipanai, inge poda kandire, melal parandu veyil kaappan, vinadai siruvan siragennum, mela pinkil varuvanai, vrindavanatte kandome, says Andal. Yela poigal uraipanai. Krishna was so adept in manipulating and speaking lies. If at all one were to make a long laundry list of lies, Krishna will suffice all of them. He's spoken every possible kind of untruth. But Krishna says, Yedime brahmacharyam syat satyam cham avyahatam yena jivatu balakaha. If I have ever always spoken the truth. You all have heard of never have I ever. Right? Maitreyi. No. Here he says, if I have ever only spoken the truth, if I have adhered to brahmacharyam, yena jivatu balakaha. Let this boy come back to life. And this boy was a pariksha to the Lord. He examined the Lord's qualities. So he was again called Parikshit for two reasons. So this boy was born as a result of Krishna's blessings. Now after this, Kunti goes and she says, Krishna, every time we have suffered, you have helped us. We were in the Lakshagraham, you sent Vidura and took us to Ekachakranagaram. In the Yuddham, every move was blessed with your intellect and your divine blessings. Krishna, now while we are in problem, it is you who has come to our rescue. Now I seek one more boon. It was his own aunt. Father's sister. ತಮಿಳ್ ಅತ್ತೇನು ಚೊಲ್ಲುವೋ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಅತ್ತಿಗೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ಅಲ್ವೇ? ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ? ತಂದೆಯವರ ಭಗಿನಿಗೆ ಅತ್ತೆ, సోదరత్తే. తెలుగులో ఏం చెప్తారు? అత్త 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 అత్తై అత్తిగే. ఇట్ గోస్ అరౌండ్ ఫైన్. సో హీ సెడ్, అత్తై, యూ డోంట్ వరీ, వాట్ ఎవర్ యూ వాంట్ యూ ఆస్క్. యు నో వాట్ షీ ఆస్క్డ్? Vipada santuta shashvat. Please keep giving us more problems. Then only we will know your greatness, Krishna. Will somebody ask like this? Vipada santuta shashvat. You all must have also asked. That's why you are in the discourse. Vipada santuta shashvat tatra chatra jagadguru. But let this problem continue for another 6 days. Bhavato darshanam yasyat punarbhavada bhavad darshanam. Please give us more problems. That is when she says, Krishna, you know, I've heard so many things about your childhood, where your mother would keep running behind you. She would tie you to the mortar. Hartum kumbhe vinihitakaraha swaduhayanga veenam drishtva damagrahana chatulam Mataram jatarosham payadishat prachalida pado napagachannatishthan mithyagopaha sapadinayane milayan vishwagopta. Vedanta Deshika says this in Gopala Vimshati. What was the reaction what Yashoda had? All this, that will come on day 5, day 6 for us. So as Kunti told all of this, and Parikshit was born as a result of Krishna's grace. Parikshit grew up. And as Parikshit grew up, one day he went to the forest. As he went to the forest, on his way, Kali Purusha was there. See, remember, Kali Yugam was born when Parikshit was ruling. We have one temple. Please do visit that. It is called IIIFA. IIIFA is a part of the Chalukyan architectural triangle in northern Karnataka. Karnataka is the focus now in Bharatadesha. So, in the northern part of Karnataka, we have a triangle called Badami, Pattadakkal and IIIFA. It is of Chalukyan architecture. Chalukyas ruled roughly between the 4th and the 7th centuries. One of the greatest kings was Pulakeshin. Why this Aihole is important is there is a temple called Durga temple there. And the inscription states that this particular king was born so many years after the Mahabharata Yuddham. So dating of Mahabharata is very important. It comes to about 3102 BC. Roughly about 400 years before the Indus Valley civilization. So, here we have Parikshit. Krishna's going back to Paramapadam happened at that period. That is when Kali Yugam began. So, Parikshit ruled after the advent of Kali. So, Kali Purusha had some influence over Parikshit. Though he was blessed by Krishna in his birth, he had the influence of Kali Purusha. So, Kali Purusha, this Parikshit goes on hunting. As he goes on hunting, there is one place where as he hunts in the forest, he gets very thirsty. You get here license to hunt also, right? So Parikshit went on hunting with that license. So when he went along with that license, he was very thirsty. He saw a hermitage in the vicinity. So he thought might as well seek the help of the Rishi who is in the hermitage. And he thought, let me go talk to the Rishi. The Rishi was in meditation, Dhyanam. What Dhyanam? Pure 100% 916 Dhyanam. Agmark Dhyanam. Because Ashtanga Yoga, Krishna tells in Gita, Yamam, Niyamam, Asanam, Pranayamam, Pratyaharam, Dharana, Dhyanam, Samadhi. 8 levels, Arjuna, how Ashtanga Yoga has to be performed. So, Yamam, Niyamam, all these are called Sopanam. Vedanta Deshika comes up with a beautiful word, Bhagavad Dhyana Sopanam, ladder to meditation. So, interestingly in Sanātana Dharma, if you are a practitioner of the Dhyana Shastram, you should not tell the devotees, now close your eyes. Close your eyes is not there in Dhyanam. You have to keep your eyes partially open in Dhyanam. How should your eyes be? Let's see if it's a tropical country, if the lotus has to blossom upon receiving the rays of the rising sun at 6 a.m. At 5:55, the bud will ready itself for blossoming. So it won't be completely closed. It will be partially open. It is just waiting for the rays of the 6 a.m. sun rays to come. Andal tells, Shengan chirichirire yemmel vidiyavo. So the eyes should be partially open and the eyeballs have to focus at the tip of your nose in Dhyana Shastra. And while focusing on the tip of the nose, you should be able to see your Aradhana deity there. So much so you should be involved, even if you hear the burst of something like a bomb next to you, you shouldn't be able to sense it. See, for example, I am meditating and I get the smell of Puliyodarai. I am not meditating. See, we say, right, shh, keep quiet, I am telling shlokas. Because we get disturbed by the noise, which means we are not in Dhyanam. Until we don't feel that as a disturbance, we are not in Dhyanam. Once we get past it, then only we are in Dhyanam. So this Rishi was in Dhyanam. Now Parikshit goes and asks, because he had the influence of Kali Purusha, he gets angry instantly. Some of you again can come in the front. Those of you at the back, please come in the front, because there will be devotees coming to have darshan of the Lord. It may be tough. So if you come in the front and sit, now because devotees have to keep coming and going. We should not cause this is a temple as well. This is just not a hall. It's a temple. So at no point in time we should cause disturbance to the devotees who have a darshan and go. So if you come in the front, it will work for others. Seated there also, if you want, you can come and sit in the front, because later devotees will come. Now, Parikshit, the moment he gets angry at the Rishi not answering to his calls of thirst, he says, I need water. The Rishi doesn't answer. He's Magna in Dhyanam. The Parikshit now feels that looking at a dead snake lying there, the Rishi and the snake are the same, because that won't answer so much as the Rishi doesn't. He takes the snake with the help of his arrow and garlands the rishi to showcase how less responsive the rishi is, and leaves this place. This should have ended there. Simple chapter. But the rishi's son's friend, Rishi's son's friend, he sees Parikshit doing this and he goes and complains to the Rishi's son. See, your father has been insulted and here you are enjoying all the happiness of your life. The boy gets angry. He says, when a snake has been used to garland my father, I curse that the person who has meted this insult to my father shall be garlanded by the snake with a virulent poison called Takshaka in 7 days from now, and shall see the god of death. Shapam done. The father understands this. He says, Apapeshu svabhrityeshu baleta pakva buddhina. My dear son, despite being under my tutelage, your knowledge has not matured. As a Brahmana, you should not get angry for such petty reasons. You should know how to bring good values in the society rather than being so short-tempered. Papam kritam tad bhagavan sarvatma kshantum arhati. On your behalf, I seek the Lord's forgiveness for the sins committed by my son. Tiraskrita vipralabdhaha shapta kshipta hata api nasya tad pratikurvanti tad bhaktaha prabhavopihi. That is when he says, may people forgive my son's mistakes. Now this somehow through media, this news reached the ears of Parikshit. Imagine you have been told 7 days, in 7 days, 7th day you will die. What will we do? I will eat parupurundai kolambu. For a very long time I have been waiting. Parupurundai kolambu. What all unfulfilled wishes we have. IPL, we don't know. By then it won't get over. 7 days. What to do? Now let's see what Parikshit. See, that is where Jayamanam hi Purusham. There is a vakyam in Purana. If you're blessed by the divine while in your mother's womb, Uttirayin Shirivanai Uyakonda Uiralan Urayum Koil, tells Alvar. Uttirayin Shirivan. Uttirayin Shirivanai Uyakonda Uiralan Urayum Kovil. Alvar tells. Now this Parikshit goes and sits by the banks of a river. He says, Prayopavesham, fasting unto death. Not having musambi juice behind. True fasting. That is when, as he sits, one handsome person comes on his own accord to that place. Tam dvayashtavarsham sukumarapadam. Beautiful lotus-like feet. Dvayashtavarsham. Dvaya ashta. 16 years. Karoru bahvam sakapola patram charvayata kshona satulya karnam subruvananam kambusujata kantham. Beautiful neck, conch-shaped neck, nice face, pleasing demeanor. He comes. That person is Shuka Brahmam, son of Vyasa. And he sits. The moment he sits, there is a beautiful understanding between the two. See, had we been in Parikshit's position, we can't be in Parikshit's position. Let's say we are in Parikshit's position. Who are you? Why have you come? We'll ask all those questions. They had that beautiful bond. That is why even in Ramayanam, Rama Hanumat Samagamam is so beautiful. Hanuman comes only after interval. He comes only in PS2. Not 1. In Kishkinda Kandam only he comes. And both were of Vijatiya Vastu. They were not of Sajatiyam. One was Narajati, the other one was Vanarajati. Rama was monogamous, he was married, he was a celibate. He had studied in a proper Gurukulam. Hanuman had studied under 1-to-1 classes. Surya had only one student. So no peer group, team playing attitude, negotiation skills, all this is not there in Hanuman. So Hanuman goes and meets Rama for the first time. See, generally it will take little time, we say, right? A lot more can happen over a cup of coffee. We have to keep moving, courtship period. Right? people of the next few generations state, we cannot go end up marrying one person just like that. See, I grew up under the love and care of my grandparents. My parents were in a different city. I grew up under my grandparents. To me, I regard that as my golden period. Because mature parents are grandparents. Right? So, my grandmother was very pretty. My grandfather was okay. So, I used to have these kind of immature questions even now, but then it was to a larger extent. So, I ended up asking my grandmother, very nice grandfather, but she was very pretty, and I asked, how did this match happen? I was barely in class 3 or 4. My grandmother was a very jolly grandmother. She never used to take things to heart. She used to say, see, I had 5 more sisters to me, younger to me, and they were to get married. So I didn't have the opportunity to pick and choose. It was not Swayamvaram. So my grandmother said, in Tamil, she said, I didn't know what my father meant. Literally, that was the case. I had to close my eyes and marry your grandfather. So, here we have Hanuman meeting Rama for the first time. What bonding they had. First meeting, first sight, he became a dasa to Rama. Ramachandrasya dasoham Sitanayakasya Guru Guhahitasya Ramachandrasya dasoham Samadana Bhedadi chaturasya sajjanapalasya Guru guhahitasya samayachara sampradayakasya Shabari moksha pradasya varasya Ramachandrasya dasoham. Same was the case with Shukabrahmam and Parikshit. Shukabrahmam came and sat. Nobody invited him. Parikshit did not ask, why did you come? What brought you here? Have you informed me? Did you tell me and come? Nothing. He asks 2 questions. Yat shrotamavyamatho japyam yat kartavyam nribhiv prabho smartavyam bhajaniyam va bruhi yadva viparyayam. Simple questions. What should I listen to? What should I listen to? Yat kartavyam japyam. What should I keep repeating? Smartavyam bhajaniyam va. What should I remember? Bruhi yadva viparyayam. What should I avoid listening to? Ataf prichhami samsiddhim yoginam paramam gurum purushasyeha yat karyam mriyamanasya sarvatha. When a person is on the verge of death, what should he listen? Simple questions. I keep telling this. People who have heard my lectures may find it like a repeat. Sanātana dharma technically, theoretically has been a civilization that has always encouraged questioning. If you question, I will cut your head. If you question, I'll guillotine you. It's not Sanātana dharma. You should keep questioning. If it was not Valmiki's questions and Narada's answer, we wouldn't be having Ramayana as a literature today. Had it not been the questions of Janamejaya and the answers of Vaishampayana, no Mahabharatam. Without the questions of Parikshit and answers of Shukabrahmam, no Bhagavatam. Without the questions of Maitreya and answers by Parashara, there is no Vishnu Purana. Without the questions of Madhura Kavi Alvar and the answer of Nammalvar, no Thiruvaimozhi. We are a civilization that encourages questioning with only a one caveat with it. Do that with a lot of humility. Don't ask to put the other person in a tough situation. Let I know he won't know. Ask him. Mattuvar parango, kokku. That won't work. See, because in sanātana you can always say, I don't know. I don't know is also a great answer in Upanishad. See, Upanishad says, avijñāto vijānatam. The person who says, I don't know anything, knows everything. If you ask somebody and that person says, I don't know, Upanishad says he knows everything. So, these questions were asked. That is when Shuka Brahmam has to tell the answer. What was the question? Draunasya viplushta midam madangam santana bijam kurupandavanam jugopa kukshim gati atta matuschameya sharanam gatayaha. How did Droni? Who is Droni? We know Dhoni. Who is this Droni? Son of Drona is called Droni. Ashwathama was called Droni. In Ramayana you will come across the word Ravani. Indrajit was called Ravani. Draunastra viplushta midam madangam. Please tell me about Drona's son, Droni, Ashwathama, who wanted to annihilate me while I was in my mother's womb. And tell me more about the one who protected me. This was the question of Parikshit. What should have been the answer? He should have started telling Krishna was born Sandra Nandatano Hare Nanupura Durva Deva Sure Sangare. He should have started with Krishna Charitram. But this is where Shuka Brahmam becomes an Upanyasaka. Upanyasaka will deal with the main topic later. Akka Purdan Jasti. So he starts telling Varahavatam, Nrisimhavataram, Kapilavataram, this, that. Finally, the person who's asked the question has forgotten what he has asked. See, that is how an Upanyasam should be. See, at one point, enna topic ivar enna solrar? That is how it should happen. Even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna was also an Upanyasaka. He asked whether I should fight them or not. Simple question. They are all my relatives. O positive, O positive. Blood, same blood. Shanda Boratuma, Vandaman Getter. He should have, Krishna should have said, fight. Or he should have showed the eyes what he showed in Nrisimhavataram. This man would have been panic stricken and would have fought. No, he started telling Karma Yogam, Jnana Yogam, Bhakti Yogam, Sthita Prajna, 4 levels, Aishwaryarti, Bhagavallabharti. Arjuna forgot what he asked. I asked a simple question whether to fight or not. What is this man telling? Because if the mic goes to one person, they won't leave that chance. So, I will tell you why Shuka Brahmam answers Krishna Charitram in the Dashama Skandam on day 5. I'll tell you that. Day 5 will be Wednesday. I'll tell you that day. You should remind me. Now, Shuka Brahmam says, I will answer. This is Skandam 1. What I have dealt now is Skandam 1 and a small part of Skandam 2. There are 12 Skandams in Bhagavatam. Now I will go to Bhagavata Mahapurana. So this is Bhagavatam. He is going to start telling Bhagavatam. Now what is the greatness of Bhagavatam? Greatness, it's a testimonial. Once Narada Maharshi came across a lady who was seated in a very, very melancholic state with 2 boys, seemingly her sons, who had swooned. She wanted to check who this lady was. This lady says, my name is Bhakti. It's a personification. It's called allegorical in nature. Vedanta Deshika came up with a play called Sankalpa Suryodayam, which is an allegorical play. Bhakti tells, these are my 2 sons, Jnana and Vairagya. That is why these 2 things have to go together. We say Vedanta Deshika, Jnana Vairagya Bhushanam. So, Narada asks, tell me something about yourself. It is like that intro session during ragging. Tell me something about yourself. She tells, Bhakti tells, who she is. Utpanna Dramide Saham. I was born in the country of Dravida country. I was born in the Tamil land. Utpanna Dravide Saham. She said, then the scenario was not very conducive for my growth. Vridhim Karnatake Gata. So I went for sustenance, for having my good, memorable childhood to Karnataka. Karnataka. in Prachina Grantham, it is not called Karnataka, it's called Karnata. Karna Atavi iti. So what we have is Mahalakshmi, if you personify Bhumi Devi or Sri Devi as a woman, she will have ears. And those ears, to make those ears seemingly more beautiful, she shall adorn those ears with earrings. So when those ears shake, so do the earrings, and they will emanate a rhythmic noise. That rhythmic noise of victory sounds so beautiful to the ears of Mahalakshmi. Karnam Atavi. Since the state is like the earrings of Mahalakshmi, it's called Karnata. And people of Karnataka, I hail from Karnataka. So I'll tell something good about Karnataka. Vedanta Deshika says, Sahaja Sulabha Dasya. Hospitable people are in Karnataka. Onchur kapi kudile bekuri nevu. Please, bani, ಒಳಗಡೆ ಬನ್ನಿ, ಕುಂಚೂರು ಕಾಪಿ ಕುಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗಬೇಕು, ವೀಣಾ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ಸು, ಪಲ್ಯ ಇದೆ, ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ತಿನ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗಬೇಕು, ನೀವು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕುಡಿಲೇಬೇಕು. ಸೊ there is, okay, I'll give you another, I'm extremely attached to Kanchipuram also. But Kanchipuram is famous for a lot of things. One is called Kanchipura Upacharam. Have you heard of it? Nice. Anybody from Kanchipuram here? Very good city. First, other Kochundruva. Very nice place. You have got Kamakoti, you have got Punyakoti. All great acharyas have lived. Vedanta Deshika lived there. Mahaperiyava lived there. Beautiful city. But Kanchipura Upacharam. People of Kanchipuram are very smart. Technically, in those days, if somebody visits their house, Nammathukku vandirukkai, neenga evvalo acharashīlar, nammathilala saapiduvela. You are so orthodox, will you end up eating in my house? Which means I won't feed you. அடுத்த முறை வரும்போது ஷாப்பர்ற மாதிரி வரணும். இந்த முறையே காணோம். So, Karnata. Vriddhim Karnatake Gata. Then Bhakti says, later I spent my employable years in Maharashtram. Kvachit Kvachin Maharashtre. I went to Maharashtram. Then I settled for the good. Gurjaram Jirnatam Gata. Gurjaram, in Gujarat I went and settled. Now, as this is Bhagavata Mahatmyam, Narada speaks the greatness of Bhagavatam. While speaking and listening to the greatness of Bhagavata Mahatmyam, the swooned sons of Bhakti Mother are rejuvenated and they gain life. To say that Bhagavatam has a lot of good things to go for the Bhaktas. On the other hand, we have Dvitiya Skandam. We have finished to some extent Bhagavata Mahatmyam. Yudhishthira goes to the presence of Bhishmacharya. Bhishmacharya was lying on the bed of arrows. You know that Bhishmacharya did not die. He had a varam called Ichhamrityu. Whenever he thinks only he'll die. Thank God we don't have that. Federal government will go bankrupt by paying pension. So, Bhishmacharya was lying on the bed of arrows. They all go and prostrate and pay their obeisances to him. Bhishmacharya says, I remember that day when Krishna came running towards me. He says one thing. What had happened? I've got a lot of portions, but I'll still tell you this. Krishna was related to Arjuna, first mode, as a cousin. Right? Krishna's aunt's son was Arjuna. Correct? Cousin. Krishna's sister was married to Arjuna. So he's also related as the son-in-law of the house. So, in a way, Krishna was duty-bound to help Arjuna in the incoming war. On the other hand, Krishna's son born through Jambavati called Shamba. It's Shamba. Generally, people say Samba. See, in Telugu Bhasha, we have more of a distinction between Sa and Sha, Syanka Chakram. But in Sanskritam, it is Shankha Chakram. So it is Shamba. He was born as a result of Shambhu. So Shamba. So Shambha had married Duryodhana's daughter. You know that? You didn't know. Duryodhana didn't inform you. So Krishna and Duryodhana were sambandhis. Remember that. Even Bhattadri invokes it, comes in Mahabharata. That's why deeper understanding. So they were related. So Krishna was in a way duty bound to help his sambandhi as well. That is when Krishna was in Dwaraka. Dwaraka was an island. Buying an island has been in the vogue. Long back. You can buy an island. So Krishna lived in that island. And Duryodhana had come, he sat near Krishna's head, and then later Arjuna came, he sat near Krishna's feet. Nitish Bharadwaj got up. So as he got up, he asked, "How are you, Arjun?" Then Duryodhana got angry. He said, "Main aaya tha pehle. Krishna, mujhe dekho, main pehle aaya tha." Then Krishna says, "See, if you have come to see me and seek my help, you should sit where I will see." You go sit in the back, how will I know? So that is when they say, "We have come seeking your help." And Duryodhana says, "You should give me choice first." But Krishna says, "See, when there are two people, the younger one should always be given the first choice as per Shastra." So Arjuna, you ask, on one side is my Sainyam called Narayani. If you want it in Ukraine, I'll give. Big Sainyam. Second is me. Second option. Option B is Krishna. Whom do you want? Arjuna said, "I want only Krishna." Duryodhana was extremely happy. He was on cloud 9. Today we speak about cloud 22, right? Cloud 9. He said, "I'm so happy." But he didn't say that, "Okay, whatever Arjuna asks you give." And he went back home telling his uncle Shakuni, "Mama, Krishna has been taken. We have got the entire army." Shakuni said, "Fool, you have left that man that side. He will do anything. Now you go tell him that you have forgotten to ask the appendix to the boon." Now Duryodhana goes, "In the Yuddham, Krishna, you should not use any weapon." Arjuna was surprised. If you go to a war, what will you do without the weapon? Chuma paaka vandenna. Adenna and the Komali, Zelensky, and how Putin. They are all fighting. I've just come to see. Will you go to a war field to see? Is that a badminton match? So what use is of Krishna on the Dharma Kshetra, Kurukshetra Bhumi if he is not going to use a weapon? Krishna said, "Deal, I will not use any weapon." Everybody was surprised. What will Krishna do on the battlefield without using a weapon? Next day, there was huge headline. Krishna promises not to lift any weapon. Big talking point. Pandey was discussing. Arnab Goswami was discussing. And Arnab Goswami let one or two people speak, which is a bigger... They all spoke. As they all spoke, Krishna spoke to Arjuna. He said, "What's your Sarathi's name? Charioteer's name?" Some could teach Satyesh Adopir. So he said, "You send your charioteer on casual leave for 18 days. Then who will ride my chariot?" Krishna said, "I will do. I shall be your charioteer, because that will bring proximity of me to you. And I don't have to use any weapon. A charioteer doesn't have to use. Parthantan termun ninnanai shittavabaniyal mudidurandanai thiruvallikkeni kandene, says Alvar. He said. Now, Bhishmacharya, upon realizing this pratigna made by Krishna, he calls for a press conference. The first day Yuddham's eve. He says, "I promise," all channels are there. Fox and CNN came together. They generally don't, they come. So he said, "I shall ensure that Krishna lifts his weapon and he breaks his promise." So two headlines. Krishna promises, "I will not use a weapon." Bhishma says, "I will make Krishna lift a weapon." The Yuddham started happening. First day he had doubts. Krishna cleared those doubts. 700 shlokas. Bhagavad Gita finally over. They started fighting. But the fight was not taken very seriously by Arjuna. He used to put one arrow. The grandfather used to catch. He used to send it like this. Krishna thought, if this is the state in which the Yuddham is going to happen, it is going to be never ending. It won't end. So he immediately said, Arjuna, fight seriously. Arjuna didn't have, because ultimately after Bhagavad Gita also, he didn't realize that Atma is Nityam, Shariram is Anityam. Nothing worked. Bhagavad Gita has always had that punyam. When you speak and read of it, you will understand it very well. After you finish it, you won't. So what Krishna did was, this is not going to happen. I cannot perennially remain this man's charioteer. I am not employed to do so. I volunteered to be one. A volunteer has to be given some rest. So he got angry. Tribhuvana kamanam tamala varnam ravikara gauravambaram dadhane vapuralaka kulavritana nabjam vijaya sakhe ratirastu mena vadya. So Arjuna, Krishna, he jumped from his chariot. You have taken my patience for granted, Arjuna. Had you been serious about what I have spoken, you would have fought this man seriously. With this audacity in you, I shall not take this and let this happen anymore. And he jumped from his chariot. Tyagaraja says, Alakallal ladagagani. When his hair tresses jumped along rhythmically as he jumped, Uttariyam, the vastram that covers the upper torso that flew in the air. Yudhituragarrajo vidhumra vishwa kachalulita shrama varyalankrtasye mama nishita sharair vibidhyamanatvachi vilatsat kaveshu Krishna atma vyavahita pritana mukham nirikshya swajanavadhad vimukasya dosha buddhya kumati mahadaratma vidyaya yascharnarati paramasya tasya mestu. Krishna jumped on that battlefield. He saw a cart, a chariot which was broken and the wheel lying. He said, I don't need the Sudarshanam. This can turn into Sudarshanam. He lifted that wheel and ran, running towards Bhishma, saying that I will kill this man. Immediately the media reported, his pratigya is broken. He has lifted the weapon. Why did the Lord go against his pledge? Because Sahasranamam says, the Lord is the one who is ready to let go of his pledge for letting his devotees win on their pledge. He wanted Bhishma to win. Swanigamamapahaya mat pratignamritamadhikartum avapluto rathastaha dhritarata charanopyabhyachaladrumat haririvahantumibham gatottariyaha. He runs. That is when Arjuna comes and says, Krishna, you have been with me throughout. I cannot let you fail. Now, from now onwards, I will fight seriously. You come back, Krishna. So this is called Bhishma Stuti. Very important in Dvitiya Skandam. Now, as this incident happens, Bhishmacharya gives a lot of Rajya Dharmam, Moksha Dharmam. He teaches all that to Yudhishthira, because Yudhishthira has doubts. See, when the grandmother is living, we won't have any questions. When she is in the ICU, hey, but you're Molokol Manviye. Modalla Varuthakanama, Shappa Varuthakanama. She will say, go ask Venkatesh Bhatt. So, as this happens, on one side, there is Brahma Stuti as well. Now, Bhishmacharya tells all Rajya Dharmam, Moksha Dharmam. And finally, he asks those 6 questions. Shat Prashni, Kimekam Daivatam Loke, Kimvapyekam Parayanam Stuvantah Kam Kamarchantaha. And then you have Vishnu Sahasranamam, which is in Anushasana Parva of Sri Mahabharata. Now, let us head back to Bhagavatam. Brahma does Stuti. There is Brahma Stuti. Brahma is created, he does one Stuti. Yannabhipadma bhavanad ahamasa meedya lokatrayopakarano yadanugrahena tasmai namasta udarasvabhavya yoga nidravasana vikasan nalinekshanaya. This is all Brahma Stuti. Brahmanda Stuti. See, there are many things in Bhagavatam. We can't go chapter by chapter. There are close to 18,000 shlokas. And I have 2 hours every day. So it is not possible to cover everything. Important incidents I'll cover. There is a mention about the creation of the world. All that will come in Vedanta as well. It is called Panchikarana Prakriya and so on. Now an important incident comes here. Kashyapa Prajapati, who lived in the foothills of Himalayas. So Kashyapa Vihara is called Kashmira. So the fruit of Kashmir is apple. That is why we say Kashmira Phalam Nivedayami. So Kashmir, he lived there in the foothills. So if you roughly know the Bharata Desham's map, the Asian map, beginning from some parts of Myanmar and some parts of China, coming across the lower part of Tibet, Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Bhutan, Nepal, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, Ladakh, that lay Ladakh portion, Kashmir, upper parts of Pakistan and Afghanistan, and some lower parts of Central Asian countries like Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan. All this is Himalayan range. So you will have snow-capped mountains, less snow-capped mountains, and no snow-capped. Himadri, Himachal, and Shivalik. That's how the topography is. So this part of Kashmiram is where Kashyapa settled. Pashyakaha Kashyapo bhavati, says Aruna Prashnam. So Kashyapa settled there. He had many wives. Now if we deal, you may have valid questions. Why did he have so many wives? Is this woman empowerment? How can one be polygamous? All valid questions. You have to go ask Kashyapa. So Diti and Aditi, one set of wives. Kadru Vinata, another set of wives. Kadru Vinata come in Garudopakhyanam in Adi Parva. So that region is very, very important for us in Puranam. Because Kashyapa, who adopted many snakes as his own children, like how we do of pets. Sir, can you adopt snakes as your pets? Valid question. Voldemort adopted Nagini. Similarly. So, that is why the eldest of the snakes was called Ananta. The first of the servants he was. So, Adi Shesha. This Ananta was a Nagam. That is why that place in Kashmir is Anant Nag. Takshaka was another snake. That is why that place is Takshakashila, Takshila. Karkotaka was another snake. That is why we had kings like Lalita Aditya Muktapida and so on, Avantipura temple. They all belong to Karkota dynasty. Similarly, we have the death of Varaha. Death of Hiranyaksha from Varaha. In Varaha Mula. Va-ba. So that is Varaha Mula, which is Baramulla. So we have Mula Sthanam called Multan by the banks of river Chandrabhaga. Puranam gives another name for these rivers. We have different names now. Jhelum, Ravi, Bias, Sutlej. They are called by different names. Lambodari is called Lidder today. So that region is very important. Now Kashyapa was performing penance. That is when one of his wives called Diti Devi approaches. Yeshamam tvatkrite vidvan kamamattasharasanah dunoti dinam vikramya rambhamiva matangajaha. I have been tormented by the god of love. Like an elephant that rushes into the banana plantation, so has Kamadeva got inside me. I wish to have children from you. That is when Kashyapa Prajapati says, though it is a valid request, this is not the time because it is Sayankala Samayam, which is called Raudra Muhurtam, where Rudramurti comes on atop Nandideva with the Ganas. In this Muhurtam, you should remain silent and not perform anything what a normal Dampati does. Because children born as a result of the relationship in this time will not be very beneficial to the society. He wants. Navayam prabhavastam त्वामनुकर्तुं गृहेश्वरी अप्यायुषावाकात्स्नेन ये चान्ये गुणघृह्णवः अथापि काममेतं ते प्रजात्यै करवाण्यलं यथा मां नातिवोचन्ति मुहूर्तं प्रतिपालय येष घोरतमा वेला घोराणां घोरदर्शना चरन्ति यस्यां भूतानि भूतेष्यानुचराणि च. But she says it is okay even if I produce antisocial elements, I want children. I am not bothered about how their demeanor will be. Then after she turns pregnant in the due course, she is worried. Now she gets worried because of the sudden decision taken. She tells, let Rudramurti not spoil my children. Mame garbhamimam brahman bhutanam rishabho vadhit rudraha patirki bhutanam yasya karavam sajam. Then Kashyapa says, you can't do anything. You have made the choice. Probably even children can be nurtured good. But you have made a choice. I am not sure how your children will be. But one thing, even if your children are not very beneficial to your society, but I foresee a situation where your grandson will be the best of bhaktas. So, he says, Savai Mahabhagavato Mahatma Mahanubhavo Mahatam Mahishtaha. Your grandson will be a very good Bhagavata. That is why Saint Tyagaraja invokes Prahlada in his beautiful Kriti. Parama Bhagavata Mauni Varashashi Vibhakara Sanaka Sanandanadhisha Surakim Purusha Kanaka Kashipu Sutanaradatum Buru Pavana Sunu Bala Chandra Dhara Shuka Saroja Bhava Bhusura Varulu Parama Pavanulu Ghanulu Shashvatulu Kamala Bhava Sukamusada Nubhava Mugakayandato Nubhavulu Kanaka Kashipu Suta. Kanaka Kashipu ante Hiranyakashipudu. Hiranyakashipu Sutudu ante Prahlada. That is why Tyagaraja was extremely devoted to Prahlada. He knew bhakti from Prahlada. That is why one of his Geya Natakams is called Prahlada Bhakti Vijayam. It's a beautiful Geya Natakam, full of kritis. In Prahlada Bhakti Vijayam, we come across Prahlada being thrown into the waters. Then he is protected by the Dwarapalakas. Vasavadi Sura Pujitudai Varijanayanu Matini Tala Chuchunu Vasudevayani Vedalinalido Vari Kunikanare Dauvarikudu ante Dwarapalakudu. Dauvari Kuni Kanare Shri Vasudeva. In Prahlada Bhakti Vijayam, you should read that Geya Natakam. Tyagaraja Sahitya Bhavam comes there. Prahlada is tormented by his father. Hiranyakashipu. We'll keep asking questions. Hiranyakashipu. Then he asks, where is Nrsimha? Where is that Lord who protects you? Then he shows that pillar. Then that Alanditta Thunayyavan Tatta, that pillar breaks open, and who should come out? Narasimha. But in Prahlada Bhakti Vijayam, Rama comes out. Sir, you slop of the thing. Why is Rama coming out? Because for Tyagaraja Swami, everything was Rama. So Rama comes and protects Prahlada. Vandanamo Raghunandana. Now, so this grandson will be a great devotee. Kashyapa promises. So this mother is carrying now. There is something very unique in Bhagavatam. Every child, technically when we look at the Puranas, we can concur and decipher that when a child was born, based on the habits exhibited by the child would be given a name. Just like that, they won't give. They'll check the child's attributes and give Ramayatiti Ramaha, very handsome to look at, then Ramaha. The one who eradicates sins, Krishnaha. Yani Namani Gaudani Vikhyatani. After looking at the Gunam, Namam will be given. So, here we have Uttara. Who's Uttara? Abhimanyu's wife and Parikshit's mother. Why is she called Uttara? Because see, in Sanatana Dharma we have had great Acharya Varyas. Adi Shankara was a towering personality. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Loka Shankaram. Great Acharya. He gave Vyakhyanams and so on. His mother, he lost his father at a very young age. His mother supported him throughout. He became a sannyasi. Even after becoming a sannyasi, when his mother was dead, he paid tributes to her. Astam tavadiyam prasuti samaye durvara shulavyata nairuchyam tanushoshanam malamayi shayyacha sambatsari ekasyapina garbhabara viditaha. My mother, you have supported me so much while I used to kick you in your womb. You took all that at your stride and you have protected me. And for the first 1 year since my birth, I have urinated and spread my stools next to you, but you didn't even close your nose for the obnoxious odor. You cleaned me out. What a great mother I have. Nairuchyam tanushoshanam alabayi shayyacha sambatsari. So he pays tributes to his mother. What was his mother's name? Very good. Aryamba. So Aryamba had the opportunity to have a great Acharya like Adi Shankara as her son. Kantimati, she was the mother of Bhagavad Ramanuja. What a great person he was. He knew how to conform to Shastras and then make the society inclusive. Not going against the existing system, raising black flags, putting black balloons. He was never of this activist nature. He wanted to be within the system and reform the system. That is Ramanuja's greatness. Upavitinam urdhvapundravantam trijagat punyaphalam tridandahastam sharanagata sarthavahamide shikhaya shekharinam patim yatinam pays Vedanta Deshika as a tribute to Bhagavad Ramanuja. What a magnetic personality he was. His mother was lucky to have a son like Ramanuja, Kantimati. So was my hero's mother, Vedanta Deshika's mother, called as Totaramma. Totarammayastastu mangalam. So all these mothers, Aryamba, Kantimati, Totaramma, they all carried great Bhagavatottamas in their womb. That is great about them. Kaushalya, she carried the Lord himself. ஒரு பகல் உலகெல்லாம் உதரத்துள் பொதிந்து அருமறைக்கு அருமவனை அஞ்சன கருமுகில் கொழுந்து எழில் காட்டும் சோதியை திருவுரப்பயர்ந்தனள் திறம்கொள் கோசலை. Kausalya was so great. Tulasidas pays a tribute later. ठुमक चलत रामचंद्र पाजत पैजनिया ठुमक चलत रामचंद्र किलकी उठ ददान गिरत भूमि लट पटाय दाय मात गोद लेत दशरथ की रनिया ठुमक चलत. Kaushalya. But Kaushalya was not very great in singing. So she thought, who will sing a lullaby to Rama? She checked on Google. Lullaby. Immediately search engine optimization gave her the first result. Kulashekara of Kerala. She outsourced it. Manapugal Kausalaitan Manivaitavane Tennilangai Kon Mudigal Sindhavithai Sem Ponser Kanninan Madil Pudai Shur Karnapuratin Karmaniye Yenudaya Yunamude Raghavane Talelo. He outsourced it because, see, you can have a vendor to a vendor. Right? If you tell Pattappa to cook, Pattappa will have 4 cooks under him. So, Kulashekara outsourced it to Tyagaraja. Navamohana Gulaina Surasatulu Vivaramuga Padagana Bhagyama Navaratna Mandapa Muna Tyagaraja Vinuta Hridi Bhurina Shri Rama Uyyala Luga Vaya. Kaushalya was so fortunate to have the Lord as her son. Devaki Shatahlada Bandhuraya Svakantya Sanjata Jambudana Bimbakalpa Trayanta Yugmena Rasayanena Kalena Bheje Kaladauta Lakshmi, says Deshika. How fortunate she was to have Paramatma as her son. So Kaushalya and Devaki were fortunate to have the Paramatma incarnate Rama and Krishna as their sons. Aryamba, Kantimati, Totaramma were fortunate to have Acharya Varyas, Bhagavatottamas like Adi Shankara, Ramanuja and Deshika as their sons. What was great about Uttara? Uttara means the greatest. Why? Because she was the only one who had the Bhagavan and Bhagavata in her womb. When Bhagavatottama Parikshit was there in the womb, Bhagavan was also there. See, generally when you're out of your mother's womb, when the water breaks and you're out of the mother from the amniotic sac and the umbilical cord is cut, you can't get back into your... You can't. But Krishna came out of Devaki's garbham and went into the garbham of Uttara. She in turn became another mother. Since she carried Bhagavan and Bhagavatottama, Parikshit and Krishna at the same time, her name given during her birth was Uttara. But that is not the case with Diti. So Diti, she was carrying and finally she gave birth to two sons. What were their names? Sorry, in the mari jujju bilang kitta kekrele. We are all at a great level. If Shuka has questions, he can get it cleared from us. Under level, Seattle, Seattle people we can clear doubts for even Valmiki and Vyasa. Don't ask us such primitive questions, Mr. Dushyanth. So, these two sons were born. Hiranya in Sanskritam means gold. Again, when Puranam says Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, eyes like gold, body like gold, again, we are all literal people. We won't understand the nuances of poetry. See, when anything comes in poetry, there will be magnanimous spread of similes and metaphors. See, if you're poetic in nature, you have to throw similes and metaphors. Then only you're a poet, right? If you just say the lady walked into that room, you're a prose person. That lady, with the gait of a swan, as she walked, there was this aura that spread in all directions with the dust of the thin gold in. That's how a poet has to talk. If you say that lady walked into that room. But when you check it, that lady, she may not have the gait of a swan. So you should strip our poetry of the irrelevant similes. Vedanta Deshika says, Attanayan, Attanayan, Uttiyana, Attiyana, Utti Puriyal, Annavadivalla Shayum, Annanadayal, Uyarum, Annavara Sheri Varuval. When Saraswati comes as Vegavati, Annavadival, Ashayum, Annanadayal, Uyarum, Annavara Sheri Varuval. Attanayan, Attanayan, Uttiyana, Attiyana, Utti Puriyal, Nannadavida, Idiana, Nadava, Nadavu. It is Vedanta Deshika's greatness as a poet. But you should strip that off of extra things. Now, Hiranya, people will say, the gold-eyed man. Eyes are gold. See, remember, there is a beautiful rule Ramanuja says in Sri Bhashya. When something, it's a very nuanced thing. If you're all students of Vedanta, you will realize there are three tools, basic tools of deciphering and knowing. It's called Pratyaksham, Anumanam and Shabdam. Pratyaksham is what you perceive through your direct eyes. Anumanam is inference. Right? See, if a person says intermittent fasting, but there is some weight gain. He says intermittent fasting, but he's putting on weight. In the night he'll be having. That is called anumanam. That is inferring. That may not be true. Again, that person could be a genuine person. Brown rice, broken rice, black rice, all that he'll be eating. So that is anumanam, inference. Third is shabdam. What is there as verbal testimony. So when there is a conflict between what the verbal testimony says and pratyaksham is. Ramanuja says this clearly in Sri Bhashyam. Interpret the verbal testimony's aphorisms based on what you perceive in your eye. In Tamil, the sentence is Pratyakshathukku tagundavaru shabda pramanattai anusarikkavum. You should interpret based on that. So Hiranya, though it means gold, it doesn't mean literally aurum, AU. From mental use table, we should not borrow. It means they were yellow skin. Today we talk about race. On a very positive note, we say yellow race, brown skin. So people from China Desham, they are generally called of yellow race. Now we may ask, sir, was China there? Very much there. In Kumara Sambhavam, Kalidasa states how the flag was fluttering. Kalidasa is roughly stationed between the 1st and the 3rd century AD, 1700 years back. When the flag was fluttering, he says, Chinam shukaihi, like the silk of China. It comes in Kumara Sambhavam. I'll give you one more verse. Yesterday I spotted this verse while reading Mahabharatam. Tathaiva Dhartarashtrasya. It comes in Mahabharatam, Vyasa Bharatam. When Duryodhana was fighting, who were fighting in his army? Because he has to import some army members. Harsha Samabhivardhayan Bhagadatto Mahipalaha. Bhagadatta. Who was Bhagadatta? Very good. Narakasura's son is Bhagadatta. He was from Shonitapuram. You got it right? Yeah. So, Bhagadatta, because of Krishna's valor, moved westward. So, the researchers, while they etymologically derive the names, have found Bhagadatta's tribe went westwards. They settled in a place. So, Bhagadatta's tribe became Baghdad. If you find around the Iraq region, that's how the name is derived. Each of the days, I'll talk about a few more cities geographically, how they are derived. Now, Bhagadatto Mahipalaha, Vyasa says, Bhagadatta fought, Senam Akshauhinim Dadau. He gave one Akshauhini. Tasya Chinaihi Kirataischa. Duryodhana used the help of China's army. Chinaihi Kirataischa. Chinese came and fought at that point in time because 3100 BC is alongside the Huanghu civilization. So they all came. Now, here, yellow, Hiranya means they will have the skin which is slightly akin to the gold's color. Hiranyakashipu, not literally meaning bodies of gold. Now, Narasimha Puranam tells one information. It says, while the children were born, in fact, even Markandeya Samhita talks about it, that I'll tell later. While Kashyapa was performing Ashwamedham, for the Yagam, there are 5 chairs kept. There's a Hota, Udgatra. One will do Samavedam, one will do Rigvedam. There is a portion, there is a Brahma. Brahma means supervisor. Brahma doesn't mean only Brahma. Brahma means supervisor for the Yagam. The 5th seat for a Yagam will be gilded in gold. That seat is called Hiranyakashipu in Yagam. So this boy crawled and went and sat on Hiranyakashipu. So from then on, the Rishi said, he is Hiranyakashipu. That was how the name comes from Narasimha Purana. Is this possible, sir? See, how many of you are from Bengaluru? Nammuru? Bengaluru. So Bengaluru, once upon a time we had many trees in Bengaluru. So early mornings, I remember as a boy, a little child, I used to remember the vegetable vendor coming and selling vegetables. Alugadde, he keeps selling. My grandmother wouldn't know the name of the person who's selling. What will she call him? Alugadde. What he sells will be his name. Correct. Then if we know the name, we will call Krishna Swami Bangarappa, whatever Appa, we'll call him later. But if we don't know, that object will become his. He won't get angry. Only if you call him Thodapam and the Thodapam is not there on his head, he will get angry. So here he sat on Hiranyakashipu, he was called Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu was the elder one. Now, who are these children? Here we have one incident in Srimad Bhagavatam that says that Sanakadis, Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanātana, Sanat Kumara, the sons of Brahma, they were celibates. They said, we won't marry, we won't have a family. They all, because of their sincerity and past record, they had visa on arrival. Anywhere you go, they can go. So in Vaikuntams, there are two. We will come across those Vaikuntams. Please remember, on day 7, I will invoke the same point. That time I will ask. Which means you have to come every day. Note panni vechirukka ellariyum 6:30. Somehow you manage your work. Bhagavata Saptaham is an opportunity for me to speak on Bhagavatam. For you, it's an opportunity. How many times Bhagavata Saptaham can we hear? Right? There are great acharyas like Anantarama Dikshitar, Sundar Kumaranna. They would have all done like 300, 400 Saptahams. But now we have the opportunity to listen. Manage your time. It is all about time management. Make it a point to come every day. Though you may know a lot of what is being said, but still it becomes an opportunity to immerse yourself into some part of narration and being a part of this journey. So, here we have two Vaikuntams, Vaikuntham 1.0, 2.0. Vaikuntham 1.0, what Vedam says is Paramapadam tat Vishnoho paramam padagum sada pashyanti surayah digiva chakshuradatam tat vipraso vipanyabo jagruvagum satsamindate Vishnoyah paramam padam paryaaptya anantaraya. So that Vishnoryah paramam padam, where Chandogyam says Anavritti Shabdat, Brahmasutram says Navartante, Navartante, says Chandogyam. Where you go, there's no return. That is Vaikuntham. That is meant for Archiradi Margam. When we do Kapilopadesham, you will get through that. Devahutyai Nyagadihi. So there is only one way to that Paramapadam. Now, on the other hand, there is Vaikuntham 2.0. That is called Karya Vaikuntham. Karya Vaikuntham means people with Sattva, Rajo, Tamo Gunam can go and come back. That's how we find many people going and coming back. We should not get confused between Vaikuntham 1.0 and 2.0. Now, Sanat Kumara, they go to Vaikuntham 2.0. Manogyanaihi Shreyasanaikanadyai ekeva vapi manimandiraischa anopamam tam bhavato niketam munishvaraha prapuratira kakshyaha. They cross various levels and go into Vaikuntham. As they go into Vaikuntham to venerate and pay obeisances to the Lord, they are stopped by the western Dwarapalakas. They go through the western Dwaram. They were called Jaya and Vijaya. Not Jaya, Vijaya, I told you. Akarantam should not be a Jaya. A sound should come. If you don't add that hrasvam, it won't make any sense in Sanskritam, because each language has its own ways of looking into pronunciation. For example, if you speak in Hindi, it is not aurat, it is aurat. So there's a way you say such words, right? ZH, Z and H in Tamil language is not ziz, it's ra. It's very beautiful to say that letter, but many people don't get it. Ra. Kolambu. See, Ari Marai Kanna Undruni Kaikaravel, Ari Ulpuku Muhandu Kodai Theri, Uri Mudalvan Uruvam Pol Mai Karat, Pari Amtolday Parpanaban Kail, Ari Pol Minni Valamburi Pol Nindru Adhirnd, Tarade Sargam Udaita Sara Marai Pol Vara Ulaginil Pedidai Nangalum Margari Nirada 11 Ras. It's a tongue twister. It is better than Betty Botter. So every language has it. So Jaya and Vijaya were waiting. So they said, who are you? They were new for job. They didn't know Sanat Kumara. Sanat Kumara said, we are allowed to go. But there was an altercation, a tiff between the two. Now Sanat Kumaras got angry. They cursed. Since you exhibit qualities which are akin to sadharana manushyas, you shall be born as humans. This was a big punishment in those days. Vaikuntha bhartuhu kartum prakrishtamiha dhimahi gandamibhyam lokanito vraja Tamananta bhava drishtya papi yastraya ime vipayostrayatra. So as this curse was pronounced on them that they shall be born, the Lord coolly came out. He's like Indian police. After everything is over, he'll come. So he put his hand on Lakshmi Devi, and the other hand on Garud. And on Garuda he came, he put on Garuda and slowly came. With that lotus going in his hand. Bhattatri Narayaniyam says, Tadedatagnyaya bhavanavaptaha sahaiva lakshmya bahirambujaksha khageshwaram sarpita charubahur anandayan stadana bhiramamurtya. How beautiful is that scene, says Bhattatri, as he rolls lotus flower in his hand, with one hand casually put over Garuda. Slowly there's a big fight going outside his house. Slowly he comes. Welcome, the four of you. How have you been? Long time no see. That is when these Dwarapalakas cry, sir, look at what has happened to your employees. Some external person is firing us. Huh? That is when the Lord says, don't worry, they will find a solution. 7 janmas they said initially. Then they said, we will give you a discount, special offer. You can be back to your pavilion, your original position, by speaking ill of the Lord. Then they have to be born in one of the parties of Tamil Nadu. Right? Samrambha Yogam, it is called. Samrambha Yogam. They were born as Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, Ravana Kumbhakarna, Shishupala Dantavakra. That's how Puranam states. Pitam Shuke Pruthuninitam Bani Vispurantya Kanchali Vidva Virutaya Vanamalaya Cha Valgul Prakoshthavalayam Vinata Sutam Se Vinyasta Hastamitarena Dhunanamabjam. Now, the Lord says, don't worry, there will be a solution for it. The Dwarapalakas couldn't take it that they shall be speaking ill of the Lord. But they said, this is the only way to head back to you. To your abode, we'll take it in our stride. And they were born as Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. This is the background to the Ditis, because the Lord had to optimize the constraints. Optimization is one of the courses that we do in engineering, right? So there'll be constraints you have to optimize. One, they had to be born. Second, Diti will have children who will go against the society. So it got a beautiful match. Here is where Hiranyaksha comes into picture. We all know, all the Charitram, Hiranyaksha took Mother Earth and placed her into the waters of deluge. Big controversial place. How can you keep Mother Earth in the waters of deluge? Correct? See, either you have to do one exercise, take one big vessel, put all the waters of Pacific, Atlantic, Arctic, Antarctic, South China Sea, even if there is some fight over it, take all the waters and put it into a jar. So earth minus the waters, then you have to put that entire crust mantle core and then put it into these waters, and these waters have to submerge and they have to be twice the diameter for them to get submerged and a thin layer of moss to form over them. Pashi turthu kidanda parmagal says Andal. Which is not possible because it is going at a certain axis, going around itself, going around the sun. It has to be outside the axis, and when it goes outside the axis, the rays of the sun will be affected, and whatever Jiva Rashis is there on Mother Earth will die. So essentially, if Hiranyaksha does this, let's imagine he does this, then Hiranyakashipu and all the family members should also be dead. If he has managed to put them into the waters and everything submerges, then everybody should have died out of the little content of dissolved oxygen inside water. Any permutation you see, it won't work. So what do we do then? Then there is another explanation given. Pralayarnavam. This is not this particular NaCl water that we are talking about. There is another particular liquid called as Pralayarnavam. It forms the ocean of deluge, which has a different viscosity, which has a different laminar flow, and there the earth was put. Again, if it has to be put, we have to describe that particular viscosity. All this is logically untenable. How do we then find out? See, that's where Vyasacharya, they have all given us one home assignment. They have believed that we will do some decent job with it. In Bharatadesham, I don't know about the concept here. So those of you who visit Bharatadesham may know, who have grown up to some extent in Bharatadesham may know. There are two large ways of living in Bharatadesham. One is an apartment style and the second is an independent house. So in independent house, what do we do is before we construct the house, we buy the plot. 30 feet by 40 feet, half a ground, 1.5 grounds, we buy that plot. Then prior to construction, what do we do? Foundation, before foundation. Bhumi puja we do. Bhumi puja. Bhumi puja. Do we do puja to the entire bhumi? We do only to the 30 by 40 plot. Correct? Do we call it 30 by 40 puja? No. Even if we do it for that small piece, which is actually very minuscule to the size of the earth, we still call it bhumi puja. Correct? So, let's say, because of the big population that the country faces, there are many, many occasions where houses are constructed where the water bodies are. So, during the days of incessant rainfall, the water manages to enter the house. That time, what will say? Bhumiye mudigi pedtu. The earth got submerged. Only that portion got submerged, not the entire, not Bellevue, Samamish, Redmond, that and all did not get submerged. Some small part near Westmambalam or Uragadam that would have got submerged. But we say Bhumi got submerged. When we have to do puja, we say Bhumi puja. Why? Even if it is a small piece of land, it is treated as Bhuma Devi. That's how we speak, right? So we should also understand that the concept of pollution, polluting the environment, is not a new phenomenon. Now people take different flights, end up in one particular country, and then discuss how to mitigate climate change, right? So we all have such wonderful, logically tenable discussions. But pollution is not something new. It is not as if before the 1900s everything was hunky-dory and everything was fine in this world. There was pollution, but at a different level. They didn't put surf into the waters of the lake. It was a different kind of pollution. So when you go against the laws of nature, when you can't coexist, when there is no symbiotic relationship with nature, that is going to cause some amount of pollution. So Hiranyaksha, who was the son of Kashyapa, must have lived in the Himalayan ranges. Himalayas, believed to be the roof of the world, that's how we describe it, is also housed to some of the largest glaciers. Of course, you're all very close to Alaska. So people do go on cruises to see the glaciers there. But Himalayan glaciers also are very popular. They give rise to some of the perennial rivers like Brahmaputra, Indus, which is Sindhu, Ganga, Yamuna. They all come from glaciers. So there would have been people like Hiranyaksha, because he was ordained to be antisocial. When you're going antisocial, you have to disturb nature. He would have done acts which were antithetical to the nature's existence and would have disturbed the glaciers. If the glaciers were disturbed, there will be swelling of the rivers. If the rivers swell, the civilization thriving on either sides of the river submerge. So even if a small part of the habitat submerges, you say Bhumi submerged. You get that? So then, I keep going to some of the Astikas' houses in Chennai whenever I have discourses there. Every time I visit one of the Astikas' house, you just get to see what's happening around. One time I was quite surprised. One of the independent houses that was built next to this Astika's house had grown. It had grown. House had grown. Achetana Vastu had grown. I wondered how. Because they were seeing that the waters during the rainy season comes in. Using the modern civil engineering technologies of the levers, they had pushed the entire house 6 feet up. Entire house. So that part which is undergoing problem, you lift that. Even small part, you call it Bhumi Puja. Even small part is submerged, you say Bhumi is submerged. One part of the habitat which was submerged because of the swelling of the rivers would have drowned. So that is when the Lord, with the efforts of all the bhaktas around, with the crescent moon-like horns of a wild boar, lifted that particular part of the Bhumi alone. You're able to get that? So one part which was affected was lifted. So here is where our Barahavatam begins. Tayor hiranyaksha maha surendraha ranaya dhavan navaptavairi Bhavat priyam kshmam salile nimajya chachara garvadanidan gadavan. Hiranyaksha let this happen. That is when the Lord, Uddhrita, now the Lord, they all go, Swayambhuva found this earth to be in distress. He goes and complains to Brahma. Brahma has this habit, if somebody comes with a certain worry, a nature of worry, he worries along with them. So Brahma was equally worried, and as he was worried to find a solution as to how to bring this drowned portion of Mother Earth back to life, Vishnu Purana tells Mahavaraha Sphuta Padmalochanaha. From the nostril of Brahma jumped one wild boar. Brahma found it very insulting. Pig jumping from your nose. He asked, "Who are you, Mr. Pig?" That boar stood like this and said, "Look into my eyes." Eyes were like a lotus petal. If you take the petals of a newly blossomed lotus, pluck them out and put them onto a face, so beautiful are the eyes of the Lord. Mahavaraha Sphuta Padmalochanaha. See, we have so many flowers now, bougainvillea, this dancing with the daffodils, says Wordsworth. So we have such beautiful flowers, tulips. Why should our acharyas compare the eyes of the Lord only with the lotus? Because this is one of the very few flowers that blossoms, rises in the marshes. Despite the dirt that is associated with the marshes, the flower carries none with it. Despite being born amidst the jivatmas, the Lord does not carry even a single dosham. Apahata papma, says Shastra. So his eyes are always brought akit to the lotus. Kumudam. Ku means very bad. Kumuda, that doesn't have a great birth. But look at the comparison of the eyes of the Lord. See, Shurpanakha. Shurpanakha was the widowed sister of Ravana. She was humiliated. She went and expressed her love to Rama. She said, "I'm in love with you, Rama. I want to marry you." Rama said, "See, in this avataram, it is not possible. This avataram, it is not possible." "I don't have a problem," she said. Rama said, "I have a problem. I can't marry you." Rama could have kept quiet, but he didn't seek our suggestions. He immediately sent her to Lakshmana. She immediately went and told all those lines of love, whatever she had expressed to Rama, to Lakshmana. She said, "I'm interested in marrying you." Lakshmana said, "See, my only job in their house is to do the dishes. If you marry me, you will end up having your fair share." So while these two men, brothers, were playing shuttle with her, she saw the beautiful, flawless, blemishless personification of unadulterated beauty called Sita emerge from the hermitage. She thought she is the impediment in me attaining Rama. While she wanted to attack Sita, Lakshmana caught her and chopped the tip of her nose and ears. Big controversial thing, isn't this body shaming? What this man has done. Anyways, all this happened. She goes to her half-brothers who were stationed in Janasthana, Kharadushana and Trishiras. She goes and complains to them. What she must complain? "Those two men have done this collateral damage to me." That's what she should have said. She said, "Those two men of lotus-like eyes. Tarunau Rupa Sampannau Sukumarau Mahabalau Pundarika Vishalakshau Chira Krishna Jinambarau." Those two men with lotus-like eyes have done this to me. Even while rebuking them, she says, "You enna avar en padarna aranjar eppadi alaga irundar theriyuma paakradhukku." Duryodhana, see, Krishna went as a messenger of the Pandavas. He refused to accept the hospitality meted to him by Duryodhana, Bhishma and Drona. Duryodhana gets angry. He said, "While we extend hospitality to you, Krishna, asking you to stay with us, you seem to have the audacity to say that you shall not stay with me, with Bhishma, with Drona's house, and you are after all going to that Vidura's hermitage." While rebuking him, he says, "Bhishma Drona Vratikramya, you have abandoned our houses. Mam Shaiva Madhusudana, You have abandoned our houses for accepting the hospitality. Kimartham pundarikaksha, O lotus-eyed one. Matsyaha kamalalochanaha. Wherever Shastram says Matsyavatam, kamalalochana. Kurmaha kamalalochana. Mahavaraha sputapadmalochanaha. So this boar is seen in Brahma's who, and he then spots through the eye. It is lotus-eyed, so it has to be Paramatma. Then the Lord emerged from the mount. Now, everything is a question in Sanatana Dharma. Vedanta Deshika asks, Bhuteshu yat tvadabhimana visheshapatram posham tadeva bhajatiti vibhavayantaha bhutam prabhuta guna panchakam adyameva prayo nidarshanataya pratipadayanti. Why did the Lord emerge from Brahma's nostril? If at all he wanted to come from a hole, he could have come from the ear also. Right? See, we have Panchikarana Prakriya in Vedanta, how creation happens. It says that, Taitriyam says, Akashad Vayuhu Vayoragnihi Agneerapaha Adbhyav Prithvi Prithivyam Oshadhayaha. It talks about how the order is. Akashad Vayu. Who is Akash? Very good. Space. All this is Akasham. No, sir, this is air. Air has pervaded the space. Akasham, from Akasham comes Vayu. Vayor Agnihi, Agni, fire. Agner Apaha, water. From water comes earth. Akasham, the Tanmatram, the USP associated with Akasham is Shabdam, sound. From Akasham comes Vayu. Vayu's USP is Sparsham, feeling. Then Agni, Rupam, you can see where the fire is. Hope California people don't get to see it. Otherwise you can see it. Agner Apaha, water, you can taste. Adbhyav Prithvi, earth, you can smell when the first waters of the rain, if at all, it rains once a year for you. You can feel, keep feeling Mother Earth always, perennially, Manvasanai. Bharati Raja will be happy. Now, for Akasham it is Shabdam, for Shabdam it is ear. Vayu it is Sparsham, for Sparsham it is skin. Next comes Agni, which is Rupam, which is eyes. Then comes water, which is Ruchi, which is tongue. Then comes Prithvi, which is Gandham, which is smell. Who is suffering? Mother Earth. What is her USP? Smell. How do you smell? From the nose. So to give a solution, the Lord emerged from the nose, says Deshika. Now the Lord jumped, and then first he had to rescue his wife. There are two ways of depicting Varaha Murti. One, if you go to Khajuraho temples in Madhya Pradesh, 1200, 300 years back, you will find a beautiful boar. Please check that. Khajuraho temple boar. You put Varaha, you will get a big boar. On its body, you can see Maharishis, because we believe that he is Yajnamurti. Of course, later in Agamam, there is another way of depicting Varaha, where you show the body of Adi Purusha and the head of Varaha. Now, the Lord came and rescued that small portion of submerged earth. When you lift something, there will be some amount of spillage this way and that way. So, as the waters which are inundated that portion of earth shook, they turned into waves and they emanated a noise which was akin to the sound of a mridangam. Vedanta Deshika says, Varaha joined Bhumi Devi and the sound of the waves was like the mridangam in their union called marriage. Purvam Varaha Vapushoa Purushottamena Pritena Bhogi Sadane Samudikshitayaha Padalataf Pralaya Varidhayastavasan Udvaha Mangalavidehe Uchita Mridangaha. That is when Hiranyaksha got angry and he went and fought with this boar. The boar killed him with his tusks, because Shastram says whenever there has to be Nigraham, it has to be through the Lord's Sankalpam. Sankalpa Shakti is Saudarshanam. Saudarshanam is Sudarshana Chakra. Where is Sudarshana Chakra? Kuranarayana Jiya in Sudarshana Shatakam says Sudarshana Chakra was within the tusks of the boar. So he bored Hiranyaksha and lifted Udhritasi Varahena Krishnena Shatabahuna. That time, this wife of the Lord, Bhumi Devi, asked a few questions in private. She said, Sir, you have made lot of rules. For the dying Jivatma, you have said only if the Jivatma through its chittam thinks of you, it will attain moksham. On the verge of dying, who will think of you? When they are suffering from good health itself, nobody thinks. Bad health, who will think? That is when Varaha answers this question. He says, for those people who have resorted to Sharanagati, who have surrendered to me, even if they don't think of me, I will think of them and give moksham. Sthite manasi susvasthe sharire satiyonaraha dhatu samye sthite smarta vishwarupam cha mamajam tatastham riyamanam tu kashtapashana sannibham aham smarami madbhaktam nayami paramam gatim. This is called Varaha Charma Shlokam from Varaha Purana. So this is answered by Varahamurti. This has been confirmed by the rishis who now praise the Lord. They say that you are Yajna Varaha and they praise him. So, to some extent, we have covered one part of Bhagavata Mahatmyam, first skandam, dvitiya skandam, and one part of tritiya skandam. But we have great portions to cover. We have Kapilavataram, Kapilopadesham, Dakshayajnam, Dhruva Charitram, Pruthu Charitram, Jadabharata Charitram tomorrow. Lot of portions. Okay. So, I have taken a beautiful photograph of all your faces. See, if you go against the traffic rules, you get the ticket in your house, right? I have a tie-up with them, you will get ticket. So please come tomorrow. It is Bhagavata Saptaham 1. Second thing, our Purohita Swami, our Acharya Varya who is seated here, along with the Astikas of this temple, board members and other volunteers have organized this. This Bhagavata Saptaham is made free to all, no ticket. But there will be costs associated with Saptaham. So on my personal request, all Astikas, please make your contributions to the temple for organizing such a beautiful Saptaham. And see, we as a civilization, now you can call it as the word religion, have largely never believed in luring people through money. I'll give you this, come here. We didn't have, we may not have, so we won't use that as a trick. Neither have we used force or fear to bring people in. So when force or fear doesn't work and through money doesn't work, the only way we can retain, sustain and bring people in the civilization is through spreading knowledge. Only jnanam and bhakti can sustain and retain people. For that, sanātana dharma has a collective responsibility. Every person who is a part of this dharma has to do it. So I'm sure each of you will inform your friends. We will make space. There's space here, here. I have no problem. 3-4 people come and sit here. It has to bear my weight, of course. And then that additional weight. Somehow we'll manage. There's so much of space here. Please bring more people in. That is the objective of a Saptaham. And please manage your work. So I'm sure tomorrow we'll be dealing with these avatarams. Third day, Nrisimha Avataram and Tripura Samharam. Fourth day, we will be dealing with Matsya, Kurma, Vamana, Gajendra Moksham and birth of Krishna. Then 5th, 6th day, completely Krishna Avataram. 7th day, we will culminate with Rukmini Parinayam. So we have a wonderful list of topics that Shuka Brahmam has laid for us. So it's in your duty, please tell people who are speaking the Tamil language, Telugu language, Kannada language, Malayalam, Marathi, Gujarati, Bengali, Hindi. Tell them this, I may not have the accent that your children speak. I may come with an Indian accent, but I still hope I'm using the right set of words and the sentence construct is decently comprehensible and listenable. So please do bring your children. If they, see, it should not turn into Kishkinda Kandam. So if your children are quite civilized and seasoned enough to sit through a 2-hour, 20-minute lecture, 20 minutes lesser than PS2 and 15 minutes lesser than Bahubali 2, you can bring them in. Everybody and anybody is welcome. This is a very inclusive civilization. Prove your existence of inclusivity by attending. There is no use in staying outside and saying people are not inclusive. This is an inclusive lecture. Come, listen. Listening, Shravanam is a part of it. Partake it. So from tomorrow, I would expect you to bring more devotees, and please start filling from the first. Don't do that. Lastly, see, of course, we will have our family responsibility, picking up your child and dropping them to the work. I'm sure you will have, but still somehow manage it for the next set of 6 days. 365 days, one set of 7 days. You will have to manage. The smartest always manage their time really well. They wouldn't complain. There won't be any set of conflicts in their mind. I'm sure each of you can do. Please do it. We have day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7 to go. So I just completed a Saptaham in Bay Area. Weekdays, 1,000 people. 1,000. So I'm sure, and I recently had 5-day lecture in Atlanta under Sri Ahobalamat banner. Huge. I'm sure Seattle can beat each of the cities because we have to prove that Bhagavata Saptaham has listeners in Kali Yugam of 2023. There's no use always whining about the religion unless and until we work towards it. So I have to prepare, you don't have to. But the beauty is, after a Saptaham, the listeners get tired. Speaker won't drink water, listeners will. But that's okay. So I'm happy that you're all there. So please do partake it from tomorrow as well. Kavitarkika Simhaya Kalyana Gunashaline Srimate Venkateshaya Vedanta Gurave Namaha Swastif Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Gobramane Bhesh Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Kayena Vacha Manasendriyerva Buddhyatmanaba Prakriti Swabhavat Karomi Ityat Sakalam Parasme Sriman Narayana iti Samarpayami Kalyana Rupaya Kalaujananam Kalyanadatre Karuna Sudhabdhe Kamvadi Divyayudha Satkaraya Vatalaya Dhisha Namo Namaste Narayana 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 Anantaramakya Mahi Pranitam Stotram Pathetyastu Narastrikalam Vatalayetascha Kripa Phalena Labheta Sarvani Cha Mangalani Narayana 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 Narayana